The dying blue star bled cold light across the windows of the conquered meeting hall, painting every alien delegate in pale, sickly silver. Hundreds of species filled the curved seats, their voices rising and falling like an ocean that did not know how to be still. Today was the day. After 200 years of debate, the galaxy would finally vote on whether the small blue planet called Earth deserved a seat among the stars. Lord Saren of the Voron walked down the center aisle with slow, heavy steps. He wore his black ceremonial robe and his pride like armor. The Voron had ruled the inner trade lanes for 10,000 years, and Saren had ruled the Voron for 60 of them. He did not smile. He did not need to. Everyone in the chamber already knew which way he wanted the vote to go. He climbed the speaker's platform and raised one long gray hand for silence. The chamber obeyed. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice deep and slow, "we have waited too long to settle this question. Today we end the debate. Today we close our doors forever to the species called human." A soft murmur of agreement passed through the crowd. Saren let it grow before he raised his hand again. "Look at them," he said. "They are loud, they are violent, they fight wars among themselves over patches of dirt. They cut down their own forests, they poison their own oceans, they have walked on only one moon, one." He laughed, and the laugh was sharp and ugly. "They have nothing to offer us, no wisdom, no technology worth taking, no grace. They are children with sharp sticks, and we are the adults of the galaxy. Why would we open our home to a child who only knows how to break things?" Many delegates nodded. A few looked uncomfortable, but most did not. The Voron had spent 60 years spreading these words across every conquered world. The words had grown roots. The words had grown teeth. No human stood in the chamber to answer. Earth had not been invited. That was the whole point. Saren walked slowly across the platform, letting his robe drag behind him. "Some of you ask why we should keep them out forever," he continued. "Some say let them grow up. Let them join us in 1,000 years. I say no. I say a species that begins with violence ends with violence. I say if we let them inside our borders, they will burn the stars themselves before they learn to be quiet. I ask the council to vote now. Close the door, lock it, throw away the key." He turned to face the great voting circle in the center of the chamber. His hand reached toward the activation crystal. That was when the lights flickered. It was a small thing at first. The chamber lamps dimmed for half a second, then brightened again. A few delegates looked up. Saren paused. The station's lights never flickered. The conquered station was the most stable structure in the inner systems. Its power core had not blinked in 400 years. Then every sensor screen on the walls turned black at the same time. A young Hesari delegate near the front stood up. She was tall and reptilian with bright green eyes, and her name was Tull. She pointed a clawed finger at the great viewing window behind Saren. "Look," she said softly. Saren turned. Outside the window, the dying blue star still burned. The dusk clouds still drifted. The far station still glowed in the distance. But something else was there now. Something that had not been there a moment before. A shape. It was not a ship the way conquered ships were ships. It was a gap, a hole in the stars, a place where the eye refused to see. The longer a delegate stared, the more their mind tried to fill in the empty space with something safer, something smaller. But the gap kept growing. Or rather, the gap kept becoming visible, as if it had always been there and was only now choosing to let itself be seen. The chamber went still. Slowly the shape sharpened. Edges appeared, curves, long, smooth lines that did not belong to any species the conquered knew. The ship, and it was a ship, was bigger than the council station, bigger than 3 Voron dreadnoughts placed end to end. It was dark gray, almost black, and it bore no flag, no marking, no symbol of war. It sat outside the window in perfect silence. Saren's hand fell away from the voting crystal. His gray face turned a shade paler. A delegate near the back screamed. Someone else dropped a data tablet, and the sound of it hitting the floor seemed very loud in the quiet. The station's defense officer rushed to a side console, his hands shaking. He spoke quickly into his communicator. Saren turned to him sharply. "What is it?" Saren demanded. "Whose ship, Voron Hesari, which fleet?" The officer looked up. His mouth opened and closed twice before words came out. "My lord," he whispered, "the ship has no signal, no transponder, no power signature. Our scanners say there is nothing there, our eyes say there is. And my lord." He swallowed. "The energy field around it. We have only ever seen that field in one place, in one set of records, old records, forbidden ones." "Speak plainly," Saren snapped. The officer's voice cracked. "It is human, my lord. It is a human vessel. And by the readings we are now getting, it has been sitting outside this window, cloaked and silent, for the entire meeting." The chamber did not breathe. Outside the window, the impossible ship waited, calm and patient as a watching eye. Fear has a smell. In a room full of 200 different species, that smell becomes a strange and bitter mix. Some delegates sweated. Some hissed. The feathered ones puffed out their chests. The insect ones froze in place, antennae trembling. The chamber that had been so loud only moments before now felt like the inside of a sealed tomb. Lord Saren forced his shoulders straight. He had not lived 60 years as the voice of the Voron by letting his face show what his heart felt. He turned to the defense officer and spoke in his coldest voice. "Order the station fleet to surround that vessel, now." The officer nodded and shouted orders into his communicator. Across the wide outer ring of the station, 50 Voron-built warships began to move. Their engines lit up like small suns. Their cannons rotated into firing position. The fleet was the pride of the inner systems. It had crushed 3 rebellions in the past century and had never lost a single ship. Within seconds, the warships formed a tight circle around the silent human vessel. The chamber watched on the giant viewing screen. Delegates leaned forward. A captain's face appeared on a small side screen, sweating. "Speaker Saren, we have surrounded the target. Our guns are armed. We await your order." Saren almost smiled. "Lock weapons on the vessel." There was a pause. The captain's eyes moved sideways, looking at something off-screen. He spoke to someone in a low, worried voice. Then he turned back. "My lord, our targeting systems will not lock. The ship is there. We can see it with our own eyes, but every scanner says the space is empty. Our cannons cannot fire at empty space. The safety locks will not allow it." "Override them," Saren snapped. "My lord, we have. 3 times. The cannons still refuse. Something in the human vessel is telling our own weapons that there is no target." Saren's hands curled into fists. Before he could speak again, the chamber's speakers came alive. Every speaker, every translation crystal, every personal earpiece, all at once. A voice spoke. It was a human voice, a woman's voice, calm, warm, and slightly tired, like someone who had been awake for a long time but did not mind. She spoke each delegate's language at the same time perfectly, with no delay. "Honored members of the conquered, please forgive the interruption." The chamber jumped. Some delegates ducked. Others reached for ceremonial weapons they did not actually know how to use. "My name is Captain Rita House," the voice continued. "I command the vessel you are now looking at. I want to assure you that no one on this station is in any danger. My ship has been parked here for the last 6 hours. If we had wanted to harm anyone, we would have done so before any of you arrived." The words were polite. The meaning was not. A delegate near the front, a small furred one named Pell of the Brashen, raised a shaking hand. "Honored Captain, why are you here?" The voice paused, as if thinking how to be kind. "I have been listening to your debate," Rita said. "I have heard Lord Saren's speech. I would like, with the Council's permission, to answer some of what he has said. I will not take long. I will not bring weapons. I will speak from my ship. If the Council does not wish to hear me, I will leave and you may continue your vote." The choice is yours." The chamber broke into a storm of voices. Saren stepped forward, fury in his face. "This is an act of war," he shouted. "An armed vessel approaches a conquered meeting in secret, threatens our fleet and demands to speak. This is invasion. I move that we destroy the ship immediately." The same calm human voice answered him directly, without anger. "Lord Saren, forgive me. We did not approach in secret. We have been parked here in plain space for 6 hours. You did not see us because you did not know how to look. That is not invasion, that is patience. And as for destruction," the voice paused, and now there was something underneath it, something not unkind but not soft either. "If I had come here for war, this station would already be quiet. None of you would be debating. None of you would be breathing. I came here to talk. Please consider the difference." The chamber went still again. Ambassador Tull of the Hesari stood up. She was young for her position, only 90 years old, but her people respected calm minds. She turned to face the council. "I move that we hear the human captain," she said. "Lord Saren has spoken for an hour about a species that has not been allowed to answer for itself. If the conquered is just, the conquered listens. If we vote without listening, we are not a council. We are a mob." Many delegates nodded. Even some Voron allies looked at the floor. The speaker of the day, an old A-tide creature named Moss, slowly rose from her seat above the chamber. Her voice was thin but firm. "The motion is heard. The council will vote by hand. Those in favor of hearing the human captain raise." Hands, claws, tentacles, and wings rose all across the chamber. The count was clear within seconds. Saren's side raised less than a quarter of the room. Speaker Moss nodded. "Captain House, the council will hear you speak." The viewing screen flickered. A face appeared. She was a middle-aged woman with short brown hair, tired eyes, and a plain gray uniform with no medals and no rank pins. She did not look like a warrior. She did not look like a queen. She looked like someone's calm and slightly worried mother. She smiled gently. "Thank you," she said. "I will be brief. You do not know us. Let me show you why that is your mistake, not ours." A soft hum filled the chamber. It came from no machine the conquered owned. The air itself seemed to gather and shape, the way light gathers in water before it forms a rainbow. Then, in the open space above the council floor, images began to bloom. The images were not flat. They were not projected from any visible source. They simply existed, hanging in the air, as solid as if delegates could reach out and touch them. Many delegates did try. Their hands passed through, but the pictures did not fade. Captain Rita's voice came again, soft and steady. "Honored Council, I will not give a long speech. I will only show you a few things, and you may judge for yourselves." The first image was a small gray object. It looked like a smooth river stone, no bigger than a delegate's fist. It floated in the air, turning slowly so everyone could see it from all sides. "This is a probe," Rita said. "We call them listeners. They are quiet, small, and very hard to detect. We have 140,000 of them. They have been drifting through conquered space for the last 60 of your years. They do not attack. They do not transmit. They only listen, and once every 10 years they whisper home." A second image appeared next to the first. It was a map, a huge, glowing map of the inner systems. Every conquered trade lane was marked in gold. Every military base was marked in red. Every secret colony, even the ones not on official records, was marked in blue. A loud gasp ran through the chamber. The hidden Voron research station on the second moon of a far gas giant was marked in blue. Only 6 beings in the entire galaxy were supposed to know it existed. Saren was one of them. He stared at the map and said nothing. "You will notice," Rita continued, "that our map is more complete than your own. We do not show this to frighten you. We show it so that you understand. We have not been hiding from you because we were afraid. We have been quiet because we were watching." The third image was harder to look at. It showed a battlefield. Ships burning, planets cracking, debris drifting in cold, dark space. Many delegates recognized the scene at once. It was the Third Border War, fought 60 years ago between the Voron Empire and the Hesari Federation. 12 million had died. The Voron had won. We were there, Rita said simply. 3 of our ships, cloaked, watching. We took notes. We did not interfere. We learned how Voron fleets move, how Hesari shields fail, how your alliance shifts under pressure. We were also present at the Mining Belt War and at the Tower Rebellion. We have been the silent guest at every major battle in this part of the galaxy for 60 years. Lord Saren found his voice at last. Lies, trickery, any species can fake an image. A new picture appeared. This one made even Saren step back. It was a Voron command room, the most secret command room in the Empire, deep inside the Voron capital world. Saren himself sat in the center chair. 5 generals stood around him. They were talking, planning, pointing at a map. The image was clear enough to read the lips of every person in the room. The recording was from last week. This was taken 6 days ago, Rita said quietly. From inside your private chamber, Lord Saren. We do not enjoy doing this, but you asked for proof and I am offering it. Saren's mouth opened. No sound came out. Ambassador Tull of the Hesari rose slowly. Her bright green eyes were very wide. She spoke the question that every delegate in the chamber was thinking, but most were too afraid to ask. Honored Captain, if you have watched us for 60 years, if you have mapped every base, if you have stood inside our most secret rooms, then you could have destroyed us at any moment of your choosing. Why did you not? What were you waiting for? The chamber held its breath. Rita's face on the screen softened. She looked truly sad for a moment, the way a teacher looks when a student asks a painful question. Because we were not sure, she said. Not sure of what? Tull asked. Not sure if you deserved to be struck, and not sure if you deserved to be saved. We were waiting to see which one you would become. Silence rolled through the chamber like a slow wave. Rita went on gently. 60 years ago, my grandmother stood in a room very much like this one on a small human ship far from Earth. She watched what was about to happen and she gave the order to wait. Just wait. Watch them, she said. Learn them. If they grow into kindness, we will reach out a hand. If they grow into cruelty, we will reach out a different hand. We have been waiting ever since. She looked across the chamber, her tired eyes meeting many at once through the screen. Today, for the first time in 60 years, we are no longer sure waiting is the right answer. Today, we hear a speaker stand in the highest hall of the galaxy and tell you that humans are children with sharp sticks. Today, we hear that speaker ask you to lock the door on us forever. And we wonder, with all respect, has the galaxy grown, or has it only grown old? She paused. I am not here to threaten you. I am here to ask a different question, a harder one. She leaned slightly forward. How honest are you willing to be? Saren's pride was the oldest thing in the room, older than his robe, older than his title, older than the empire he served. It would not let him stay silent, even when silence was the wisest choice. He stepped forward, his black robe sweeping behind him, and pointed a long gray finger at the screen. This is theater, he said loudly, his voice cutting across the quiet. Smoke and mirrors. Any clever species can show fake maps and false rooms. Anyone can record a face and play it on a screen. You speak of patience, Captain, you speak of watching, but you have shown us nothing of substance. You have shown us nothing that proves your kind can do more than sneak in the dark. So I ask you here before this entire council, can your people fight, or do you only know how to hide? The chamber stirred. Some delegates frowned at Saren's tone. Others, the older Voron allies, nodded in support. On the screen, Captain Rita did not look angry. She looked, if anything, very tired. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was quieter than before, almost a whisper, but somehow it still filled the entire chamber. Lord Saren, I did not want to tell this story today. I had hoped we could meet the galaxy with open hands and not with old wounds. But you have asked me a direct question, and I owe you a direct answer." She paused, the chamber leaned in. 60 Earth years ago, a small human colony lived on a planet at the edge of our space. The colony was named Seldon's Hope. It had 3,000 families, 12,000 people in total. They were farmers, teachers, builders, and children. The colony had no army. It had no warships. It had 4 small patrol craft, each smaller than a Concorde shuttle. The colony grew wheat and a kind of red fruit and raised animals. It was peaceful. It was new. It was very, very far from anyone who might help it. Rita's voice grew softer, but not weaker. On a quiet morning in the 3rd year of the colony, a Voran scout fleet found Seldon's Hope. The fleet was not lost. It was not on a peaceful mission. It was searching for new territory the Empire could claim before reporting it to the conquered. The Voran captain saw a defenseless human world and decided that an unreported strike would be the cleanest way to plant a Voran flag. He gave the order. The fleet fired for 9 minutes. She stopped, she breathed. Her eyes were shining now, but no tears fell. 12,000 humans died in those 9 minutes. Most of them were children. The Voran captain ordered the bodies, and the colony burned to ash so no evidence would remain. The fleet returned home and reported the planet as empty and unclaimed. The Empire never told the conquered. The conquered never learned that the colony had ever existed. And so for 60 years, those 12,000 names sat in silence. A low sound moved through the chamber. It was not anger, not yet. It was something closer to a cold wind passing over a deep grave. Many delegates turned to look at Saren. Saren's face had gone the color of old bone. "Lies," he whispered, but the word had no strength in it. Rita continued without looking at him. "We knew, we always knew. One of our listeners was already in Voran space when the order was given. It heard everything. It recorded everything. It sent the recording home." A new image appeared in the air. It was a Voran officer's face, 60 years younger, speaking the order to fire. His voice played from every speaker in the chamber. It was a calm voice, a bored voice, the voice of someone ordering breakfast. The chamber listened. The chamber did not move. Rita's voice came again. "My grandmother received that recording on the bridge of her ship. She wept. Her crew wept. Then they made a choice. They could have answered fire with fire. They could have burned the Voran homeworld to ash in a single hour. They had the ships. They had the right. They had the grief. But they did not." The image changed. Now it showed a Voran home system, 60 years ago. A great fleet of warships floated peacefully above the Voran capital world. A single dark shape, almost invisible, drifted through the fleet without being seen. "One human ship," Rita said. "Not a fleet, one. It followed the scout home. It entered Voran space silently. It did not approach any city. It did not touch any civilian. Over the course of one night, it disabled every single warship in that home system. Their power cores went dark, one by one. Their crews woke up the next morning to find their ships dead in space." Many Voran delegates in the chamber turned to stare at Saren. They had never heard this story. Saren had buried it for 60 years. The image shifted again. It showed the side of a Voran flagship, large and proud. Burned into the metal hull, in deep clean letters that no Voran tool could remove, was a message. Rita read it aloud slowly. "We could have done more. We chose not to. Remember this." The chamber did not breathe. Rita looked directly at Saren now. Her face on the screen was calm, but her eyes were ancient. "You remembered, Lord Saren. You remembered for 60 years. You remembered every single day. And then you stood in this chamber today and you called us children with sharp sticks. You called us loud. You called us primitive. You asked the galaxy to lock its door against us." She paused. Tell them the truth, or I will keep telling it for you." Saren's hands were shaking. The whole council watched him. and for the first time in 60 years of pride, he had nothing left to say. Truth is a heavy thing. When it enters a room that has lived on lies for too long, the air itself feels too thick to breathe. The chamber sat under that heaviness now. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the small flying insect delegates near the ceiling had stopped buzzing. Lord Saren remained on the speaker's platform, but he was no longer the same figure he had been an hour ago. His shoulders had folded. His proud face had crumpled into something smaller, older, more breakable. He stared at the floor of the platform as if hopping it would open and swallow him. The other Voron delegates in the chamber would not look at him. Some of them were younger. Some of them had grandparents who had served on those disabled warships 60 years ago. Some had grown up hearing whispers, never the full story, about a long night when the great Voron fleet had gone dark for reasons no one would ever explain. Now they knew. Captain Rita's face remained on the great screen, calm and quiet. She did not gloat. She did not raise her voice. She simply waited, as if giving the chamber a chance to find its own footing again. After a long moment, she spoke. Her tone had changed. It was softer now, almost kind, like a doctor speaking to a patient who had just received hard news. Honored Council, I did not come here to shame the Voron. I did not come here to demand revenge for Seldon's hope. The dead are dead. No anger of mine will bring them back. I came here because, after 60 years of waiting, my people have finally made a decision, and I owe it to you to share that decision openly. She looked across the chamber. For 6 decades we have watched you. We have learned your languages. We have studied your histories. We have read your poems and your laws and your bedtime stories for children. We know your festivals. We know your songs. We know which of your worlds celebrate the longest night and which ones celebrate the longest day. We know you, perhaps better than you know yourselves. A small smile touched her tired face. And we have decided that the galaxy is worth talking to. The chamber stirred. Hope, fear, confusion, and curiosity all moved through the rows at once. Earth has things to offer, Rita continued. We have built medicines that can regrow a lost limb in 2 weeks. We have grown crops that can feed a hungry world from a single seed. We have learned to pull energy from dying stars without harming them. We have cured 11 of the 12 great plagues that have killed conquered citizens for the last 1,000 years. The 12th, the one your healers call the Slow Shadow, we cured 19 years ago. We have shared none of this with you because we were not yet sure you would use these gifts kindly. Today, we are still not sure, but we are willing to find out. A delegate from the small Brashian people, a furred creature named Pell, raised a trembling paw. Honored Captain, do you ask for a seat on the council? Is that your price? Rita shook her head. We do not ask for a seat. We do not ask for trade. We do not ask for protection or alliance or treaty. We ask for nothing today. We will share our medicines freely with any species that asks, council member or not. We will share our food systems freely. We will share our energy designs freely. These things are not bargaining tools. They are simply things we have made, and we believe they should belong to anyone who needs them. The chamber stirred again, more loudly now. Many delegates spoke at once. The idea of free gifts from a stronger power was so strange to most of them that they did not know how to hold it in their minds. Ambassador Tull of the Hesari rose slowly. Then why have you come at all, Captain, if not to ask for anything? Rita's eyes grew steady. Because we will not deal with a council that lies to itself. Lord Saren stood in this chamber today and tried to lock our door forever while hiding the murder of 12,000 of our people in his own past. He spoke for the Voron Empire. The Voron Empire sits on this council. If the council allows such a speaker to speak in its name, then the council is not a place of justice. It is a place of comfortable lies. We will not share our gifts with comfortable lies. We will not break bread with a table built on hidden graves. She let the words sit. So we offer the conquered a choice, not a threat, a choice. Tell the truth, all of it. Tell it openly. Hold Lord Saren and his predecessors to account by your own laws, by your own courts. Acknowledge Seldon's hope. Speak the 12,000 names aloud and add them to your records of the dead. Then and only then will we walk through your door as friends. We will not walk through a door propped open by silence." She paused, looking around the chamber. "You have one conquered cycle to decide. That is 16 of your standard hours. I will not threaten you in that time. My vessel will not move. My weapons will remain cold. No human ship will approach any of your worlds. We will simply wait, as we have always waited." Her face on the screen softened. "Decide well, honored council. Whatever you choose, we will respect. If you choose to remain as you are, we will withdraw and watch you from a distance for another 60 years. If you choose honesty, we will meet you tomorrow as neighbors. The future of our two peoples sits in your hands tonight. Use them kindly." The screen flickered, her image faded. Outside the window, the great human vessel sat in perfect silence, exactly where it had been all day. Patient, waiting, inevitable. The cycle had begun. 16 hours can be a very short time. 16 hours can also be the longest stretch of moments a civilization has ever known. For the conquered, that single cycle became both at once. Lord Saren tried to leave the station. He moved through the back corridors toward the Voron private docks, his robe trailing behind him, his security guards hurrying to keep up. He did not reach the ship. At the door of the docking bay, 3 Voron officers from his own delegation blocked his path. They were younger Voron. 2 of them had grandparents who had served on the disabled fleet 60 years ago. They did not raise weapons. They did not shout. They simply stood in the doorway and would not move. The senior officer among them, a tall woman named Vila, spoke quietly. "My lord, you will return to the chamber. The council will hear you answer for Seldon's hope. By Voron law, by the law your own family helped to write, you will not flee tonight." Saren stared at them for a long moment. Then his shoulders fell. He turned around without a word and walked back toward the council hall. Inside the chamber, the cycle had become a storm. Ambassador Tull of the Hesari stood at the speaking platform and read out the recording of the Voron firing order in front of the full council. She read it 3 times slowly, so that every translator could carry it to every species. When she finished, she set the data tablet down and asked one simple question. "Who else has been silent?" The answer came in pieces. A small delegate from the Pemra system rose first. He spoke of a Voron trade ship that had pressed his people into hard labor for 10 years and had never been reported. He had been afraid to mention it because the Voron controlled the food routes to his homeworld. A delegate from the Hesari outer colony spoke next. She told of a Voron raid on a Hesari medical convoy 30 years ago. The convoy had been carrying vaccines to a sick world. The Voron had stolen the vaccines and let the sick world die. The story had been buried by Voron pressure on Hesari leaders. One by one, smaller voices that had been quiet for centuries began to speak. Some of them wept, some of them shouted, some of them simply read names from old lists, names of the dead, names of the missing, names of the disappeared. The Voron Empire, which had stood proud for 10,000 years, began to crack in a single day. By the end of the cycle, 11 separate complaints had been filed against the Voron leadership. Lord Saren was removed from his post by his own delegation, by their own vote, with no human pressure involved. He was placed under formal arrest and would face a Voron court within the year. The empire itself was not destroyed, but its old face was. Younger Voron, ones who had grown up uneasy with the lies of their parents, began to step forward. They asked quietly if a new Voron could be built from the wreck of the old one. Speaker Moss of the council rose at the end of the cycle. Her 8 eyes were heavy with the weight of the day. "The council will not vote tonight on whether humans should be allowed to join us," she said softly. "We will vote on a different question first. We will vote on whether this council deserves to exist as it is. Reform begins now, today. within these walls. The vote passed, the reform began. The next meeting of the council opened 16 hours later. The chamber was different now. Smaller species sat closer to the front. The high Voron seats had been moved down to the middle rows. New cameras recorded every session for public viewing. New laws had been written, quickly but carefully, requiring open reporting of all military actions in border space. And one new delegate entered the chamber. She walked alone. No guards, no escort, no ceremony. She wore the same plain gray uniform she had worn on the screen the day before. Her short brown hair was tucked behind her ears. Her tired eyes were warm. Captain Rita House, the new ambassador of Earth, stepped onto the council floor. She did not move toward the high seats. She did not climb the speaker's platform. She walked past the ancient thrones and the carved chairs and the long Voron benches. She kept walking until she reached the small section at the back where the smallest species sat. The ones who had spoken yesterday for the first time in centuries. The Pemra, the Brashan, the Hesari outer colonists, the ones who had been laughed at for 10,000 years. She sat down in a simple chair among them. The chamber went quiet. Rita looked up. She smiled gently. Then she spoke a single sentence in the common conquered tongue. "We are glad to finally meet you." That was all. She did not give a speech. She did not list demands. She did not promise gifts, though the gifts would come. She simply sat and listened, the way the smaller species had been forced to sit and listen for centuries. Outside the great window, the giant human vessel slowly began to fade from sight. Its edges blurred. Its dark hull dissolved into starlight. Within a minute it was gone. But every single delegate in that chamber knew with a quiet certainty that the ship had not left. It was still there. It would always be there. Not as a threat, as a reminder. A reminder that the galaxy had spent 60 years calling humans children, while humans had spent 60 years choosing, again and again, not to be the monsters the galaxy had assumed them to be. From that day forward, when a delegate spoke of humanity, no one laughed. And far above the dying blue star, the cold stars themselves seemed to burn a little brighter, not with fear, not with anger, but with the memory of how close the galaxy had come to never knowing what it had almost lost. The door at last was open, and the humans at last walked through it.